The wrestling business has never been the easiest that's out there. The world is really small and the audience has seemingly shrunk since the 2000s despite the ever-increasing turnovers and profits that WWE report regularly. Still, in a world as small as wrestling, while it's easy to become really popular, it is as easy to lose fans if you're not careful. And once you've lost fans, it will be difficult to get them back. In fact, it's easy looking at the current wrestling landscape to realize there are a lot of wrestlers out there who, though once enormously popular, have now lost their fans. Here's a look at some of the most popular wrestlers who have lost a lot of fans. Velveteen Dream has gone from being one of the wrestlers that everyone was looking forward to seeing develop into a main roster star to a non-entity in the wrestling world. Rarely has the fall of a wrestler been this severe and visible. During 2020's Speaking Out movement, Dream was named as having sent inappropriate messages to minors. After a long time, he was released by WWE as well, and since then things have seemingly been on a decline for the star. Not only has his popularity decreased without the visibility of WWE as a platform, but he has effectively been on a downward spiral, with EC3 alleging last year that Dream even used his phone to film wrestlers in the bathroom, Dream getting into fights, and the stories of his substance abuse and arrest. The audience has clearly lost what little respect for him that they had left after the original scandal. Now, the man who was hyped to be one of the next big things in wrestling practically might not exist in the wrestling world. Hulk Hogan is another star who was not only popular, but at one time was synonymous with the words professional wrestling. It's impossible to find a fan even now who has not heard of the Hulkster. In the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, he used to rule the wrestling scene, and his stories with Nash and Hall and WCW almost ensured WWE would not be competitive, until Vince McMahon was able to turn things around. Even after that, his matches against The Rock and Brock Lesnar are seen as some of the biggest moments in wrestling history. However, while he harmed his own legacy with his time in TNA, it was after that when an adult private tape of his was released where he made racist references, and this led to fans turning on him completely. He went from being the beloved wrestling figure who was also known for backstage politics to that racist wrestler that everyone could not stand. He alienated a huge portion of the WWE fan base, and while he was removed and later placed back in the Hall of Fame by WWE, fans have not been as forgiving. Every appearance of the Hulkster has seen the man being booed by fans who had once loved him, and even wrestlers like Big E have confessed to avoiding him backstage. Joey Ryan caused his own demise through his own attitude and behavior in the wrestling business. While always controversial, Ryan had created his own genre of wrestling humor, where in kayfabe, he had the strongest nether regions known to man, and that would come into play in his matches. Never really a part of WWE, Joey Ryan made his name in the indies and did it well, becoming extremely famous and having his videos wrestling stars and hitting them with the flip go viral on YouTube. The star had it all and controlled a large part of the indie market, but as it appears, he put it to the worst use possible. He faced several accusations about sexual misconduct, including assault and harassment by several wrestlers that he had worked with during the Speaking Out movement. He filed 7 libel and slander lawsuits against women who accused him, but all of them were either dropped or dismissed. Meanwhile, he had to leave the wrestling world completely and was spotted working as an attendant at Disneyland's Jungle Cruise attraction. Still, when it came to light who he was, Disney promptly dismissed him. While not as drastic as the others mentioned on the list so far, the Big Red Machine Kane has also fallen from grace in recent years. Whereas before he was beloved by fans who loved seeing the monster wreak havoc in WWE, his political stances have been his undoing among his old fans. Politics always runs the risk of dividing people, and this was not different for Kane. He was elected as the Republican candidate for mayor in Knox County and is active politically. Unfortunately, his backward viewpoints about several points, but especially recently, the issues surrounding the Supreme Court repealing Roe v. Wade, a landmark decision about abortion rights. This brought him a lot of criticism as he supported the controversial Supreme Court decision, and while some have agreed with what he has to say, there has been an obvious change in the way people respect him, and he has lost the status of beloved veteran that he once had in the company. There was a time not too long ago when CM Punk was the darling of the wrestling world, be it casual or hardcore fans. With his controversial pipe bomb and the stick it to the man attitude he had, it seemed that there was no stopping the meteoric rise of the superstar. He was self-proclaimed best in the world, and a lot of fans didn't hesitate to back up this claim and put in arguments for him. However, after mistreatment in WWE and his issues with injuries, he chose to take some time away to recover and get married, but WWE fired him. This led to a podcast that exposed the inner workings of WWE to fans, and that would rile up a huge portion of them against WWE as well, although he left wrestling and didn't return at all for a long time. He went to UFC instead, and here it seems his mistakes started to take on a different turn. He fought in 2 matches, seemingly believing his own hype, and lost both of them rather badly. This lost him fans, but nothing like what was waiting for him when he finally returned to wrestling. It was 2021 when he finally took the plunge and joined AEW, returning to wrestling for the first time in 7 years. It was a huge moment, and for a while it looked like he could do no wrong until he did. He was bitter about some backstage issues in AEW, and in a promo after All Out during the press conference, calling out Hangman Page, the Young Bucks, his former friend Colt Cabana, and several others. If it had stopped there, it would have simply been an amusing and entertaining moment fans would have made fun of, but it didn't stop there. The star got into an argument with Omega and the Bucks that led to a brawl in his locker room where his friend Ace Steel also bit Omega. The entire thing was a comedy of errors, but it led to a lot of bad feeling about Punk as others spoke out against him for his behavior as well. It's fitting that after talking about CM Punk, we arrive at Ryback. During his time in WWE, Ryback was massively over and was looked at as something like a modern Goldberg. He was pushed to the moon in the beginning and was wrestling for all the top titles, even though he was not winning anything. Fans wanted to see him as a regular feature in the main event scene. That's something of a testament to how he was performing. However, after CM Punk stepped away from WWE and talked about Ryback being stiff and hard to work with on the podcast, his career took a downturn. The fans turned on him as they saw him as an unsafe worker and someone who injured anyone he worked with. Slowly but surely, his lack of popularity showed in his booking and he was released by WWE. Here's where the biggest change happened, as after being released, his bitter comments on social media did not paint him in the best of lights to fans. In fact, they turned on him even further than they had previously. He was always bitter, but the rage and controversy he showed in his comments were at a bad level, and he hardly had fans left. After that, when he polled the fans about what he should do next, retiring was the #1 answer given by the fans on the Twitter poll. Alberto Del Rio was a man who played a heel during his time in WWE, but fans loved to hate him. There was a certain charisma about him that made him an important part of the wrestling roster. He sometimes even got reactions as a babyface, but since lost a lot of support. He got into a relationship with Paige, and after he was released from WWE, appeared to go on a downward spiral. He would have frequent rants on social media that turned fans away from him, and he was arrested a couple of times for his behavior as well. Allegations were made against him by another woman he was in a relationship with, including kidnapping her son and abusing him. Paige also backed up these allegations, though these have since been dropped, but the reports and comments made during that time have had a lasting effect. Even if he was cleared of all the charges in a court of law, the bad blood has remained, and the fans still hate him. He has lost the fans that he had, and is one of the most hated men in wrestling now as a result. And these were once popular wrestlers who have lost their fans. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.